When it comes to famous people and celebrities, often you'll find cars that just don't make sense or are completely bizarre and horrific. And this isn't from a hate standpoint, this is from a you have terrible taste, please have someone sort your car collection out. In this video, I'm going to go into weird and horrendous cars owned by famous people all over the world. And for context, deadmau5's Ferrari and Lamborghini are not included because I actually quite like them. It's also worth noting that this is subjective content and of course you can disagree, but you would be completely wrong. Starting with Chris Brown, famous rapper and artist. Amongst his other controversial things that he's done, his car history is rather questionable, particularly with his Lamborghini Gallardos. He could have gone out and bought a Lamborghini Gallardo, and it's a great car by the way, it ages very well. Fantastic car in fact, Chris. But what you made a mistake of doing is taking it to West Coast Customs. Now I like West Coast Customs, don't get me wrong, both great things, but combining the two together has been horrific for him. And he has changed a little bit with his new Aventador, admittedly, but he had the Lamborghini Hot Wheels style Gallardo as well as his USAF style Lamborghini, which is based off a aeroplane, I think, a Mustang. You don't see any videos of it, and I don't think the cars even exist, so he has moved on a little bit since. Up next is Jake Paul, famous YouTube star, Vine star, and on Disney at one point. And at the time of recording, he just lost to Tommy Fury. He bought a lovely Ford Focus RS, but unfortunately ruined it with this horrific camouflage paint job. Now, I can't lie, I actually quite like the paint of camouflage occasionally. It was a bit of a thing about 5 years ago why everyone did it. And I also can't deny that, well done Mr. Paul, a Focus RS is not too flashy and a great car to go with when you're just earning a bit of first YouTube money. But what he did was and completely ruin it by doing this wrap. Now, in fairness, it did make it to Need for Speed Payback, which is kind of cool, but the car for me just was not it. He kind of ruined it with this camouflage, and kind of one of the worst celebrity car mods people have said has happened. I promise this isn't on purpose. You may have heard of Jojo Siwa, famous being on YouTube, Nickelodeon, etc. A lot of my viewers don't really care or want to know, and I don't either, but she did buy a Tesla Model X, a car I kind of like. You know what, I'd buy it for the gull-wing doors, great car. But what she did to it was horrific. She did two things. One was some awful picture of herself on the car. I think that's the worst, most obnoxious car I've ever seen. Yes, she's 16, but it's horrendous. And then the next one, she decided to take a weird NASCAR wrap, and a bit better, admittedly, but also not that great, and combined it with her name on it, and it was just awful. West Coast Customs also created this abomination. I don't know if you're seeing the link here. Now, hey, I just want to put it out here, I love West Coast Customs, and I'd love them to do my car, but only to my choice, and as long as it wasn't too bad from Pit My Ride. The owner and founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, you would expect him to be wildly successful in all his billions that he has and be able to buy such an amazing car, like a McLaren F1, a LaFerrari, but he drives a humble Honda Fit, and while there's nothing wrong with that, it is just weird to me that he drives that, but fair enough, Mark. At least it'll never break down. will.i.am is on this list for good reason, and it's his 1958 custom Volkswagen Beetle / Porsche. You might recognise it from the Justin Bieber video Power, and I personally think it looks a bit like a Thunderbird. The car is so weird. It started off as a project in 2009, and then the rapper wanted to fit it with a twin-turbo Porsche Flat 6, and fit it in a Volkswagen Beetle old style from 1958. This, once again, was made by West Coast Customs. Another link in the chain here. Of course, the car had a supercharged LS3 Extreme Performance and was installed in the front. The creative process, as you can tell by the final product, was a complete mess. And frankly, I don't think anyone can really disagree with me here. This car is horrendous. It was actually seen at the 2011 Super Bowl as well. We're also ignoring his ruined DeLorean. Again, much like Mark Zuckerberg, Daniel Radcliffe drove a car that, while not terrible, is just weird for the type of person he is. At the time, he was one of the world's wealthiest celebrities who drove one of the cheapest cars you could buy. On his 18th birthday, bear in mind he had finished Harry Potter at this point, which was hugely successful, purchased a car that was way out of the ordinary, being a movie star, and of course that was the Fiat Punto. No disrespect there though, because while it only cost $2.5 grand, it's still a good car for a first person, and has upgraded since, which now includes a Lamborghini Huracan. The UFC fighter Conor McGregor has a great car collection, it's fair to say, but one of the cars he did ruin, and it's fair to say as well, was his Rolls-Royce Ghost. And it's a great looking car. You think that Rolls-Royce spent so much time on their cars, really manufacturing them and making them great, not to be fatal with, let's say. Well, what he did was, not necessarily fatal with it underneath, but ruin the paint job. Because ahead of his fight with Eddie Alvarez in 2016, he decided to plaster himself on the car and much like Jojo Siwa, completely ruined it, putting Notorious on the side for self-promoting for his own billboard. Maybe it helped him get in the mood, or maybe it helped him win the fight. Whatever it is, it was a terrible decision because I think this looks pretty rough. But you would self-promote, right? And obviously it's worked out because he's very successful. We know that celebrities love to take a car and completely ruin it throughout this video, and this is exactly what Kim Kardashian has done with her £200,000 Lamborghini Urus. She, in fact, ruined it by what was already a pretty good car and has its fair share of modifications with the Mansory kit, with a white Skims fabric. This was to promote her upcoming Skims Cozy collection. Again, a good promotion technique, and it obviously worked because the car is horrific. Fuzzy fabric throughout interior, exterior, covering up the rims and the license plate. While this does look cozy, there's no denying it, this completely ruined the look of the car, and it's one of the weirdest cars I've seen. It almost reminds me of Dumb and Dumber. We can't imagine the white Lambo would look good in terrible weather as well, and given that it's in Los Angeles picking up your kids, it's not something you'd really want to be picked up in, unless you were absolutely crazy. Let me know down in the comments which celebrity I missed and what their car was.
Don't forget to subscribe if you like car content.